a second here. Come on, takes a second. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. We're winding down slowly to finishing his material on the laws of charity. It's been exciting material, and I think it's all the meaning to it is coming together now. So let's just tune in and see how the Shalom, Rabbi. We're going to turn the class over to you and let you take it from here.
Thank you, Dad. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share the screen right here. And yesterday, we're in the 10th chapter. I'm just going to move this on my screen over here. I'm having trouble with this command. Oh, why is that going to do it? Oh, there you go. Okay. We're up to the notes here. We're up to the Shulchan Aruch version of what Rambam said after we've gone through some Talmud. So that'll be like a review. So in paragraph chapter 247, paragraph 2, Shulchan Aruch said, "Never does a person become impoverished from giving charity, nor does any evil or harm befall him thereby. As it is said, the act of charity shall establish peace." He brings a verse in Isaiah. And then in the next paragraph, he says, "For anyone who shows mercy to the poor, the Holy One, blessed be he, shows mercy to him." It's two separate thoughts, really, because one is saying that when you give charity, don't consider you're giving away your own money. It's just going to get it back. God's going to look after that. That's a verse. And then the other thing is that, generally speaking, whoever shows mercy to the poor, that could be in other ways too, the Holy One will show mercy to you. So it'll maybe even in other ways. Now to this, so just before I continue, I want to point out just some of the, because I'm a writer, and so I noticed these things. But Rambam, going backwards, there was three sources in the Talmud that Rambam collected and put together into this paragraph 2 he has in this chapter, starting with the idea that if you give charity, it's not going to harm you, and then wherever is mercy, and then if you have hard-heartedness, it's not nice, and so on. So he got that all from the Talmud, and for some reason, the Shulchan Aruch, who's quoting his words, breaks it back into 2 paragraphs, and I'm not sure why he did that. But that's what he did, and I just noticed it. So, and on that, the Ramah said, "Now each person should keep in mind that he seeks his sustenance every moment from the Holy One, blessed be he. And just as he's seeking that the Holy One, blessed be he, listens to his prayers, so he too should listen to the prayers of the poor." Meaning, prayers meaning, I beseech you, help me out here. In other words, not that they're praying to God, but they're asking you. They're asking you for help, so listen to their prayers. He should also keep in mind that he is but part of a perennial cycle, and at the end of every man is that he or his son or his son's son will arrive at this state, and that whoever shows mercy to others will have mercy shown to him. In other words, there's a saying in English, rags to riches in 3 generations, and then back again. People get rich, and then their children or their grandchildren wind up poor again. It's a cycle. You don't stay, unless you're a royal family, maybe, or something like that. The cycle may take longer, but eventually everybody goes through it. So, even though you're on top of the heap, keep in mind that one day you or your kids you care about will need help from some other people, and if you've shown help, then God will make sure that help comes your way. So that is the Shulchan Aruch version of the Rambam. Go to my notes. Rambam's concluding statements in this paragraph are a stirring plea for brotherly compassion, so much so that they appear striking in their departure from his normally rational tones. In fact, they may be so out of character that they are problematic, especially since they do not seem to be based on a Talmudic source. When Rambam chooses to say, "To whom shall the poor of Israel lift up their eyes?" he at once evokes and denies the famous passage, "I lift up my eyes to the mountains, from whence will come my help." Psalms. It says, so who are they going to lift up? They're going to lift up to God. What are you talking about? So a very strange language for him to evoke. Well, it may be true that the poor look most immediately to their brethren, and this image creates a strong emotional message. As a philosophical argument, it is weak in comparison to what we might expect from Rambam. Perhaps we might understand these sentences not as a separate last statement, but as a continuation of the proof to the preceding thought that those who do demonstrate hard-heartedness are suspect as to their true lineage. In other words, he had just finished talking about the other side of the coin is that if you are hard-hearted, that throws into question your whole genealogy, because sons of Abraham are normally charitable, and if you're not, so then where'd you come from? And so this is not a separate thought, but just a support of that. And that's why he waxes on. That's all I could think of, but I was struck by the by his change in tone and what he was saying. I read him very carefully. I just take him apart. Every word to me means oodles. Paragraph 3. Whoever hides his eyes from giving charity is called Belial, which is without elevation, without any dignity. In the same manner as idol worshippers are called Belial. That's the same word, which means without anything good to say about them, but it's a word that's thrown at about idol worshippers. About idol worshippers, it says, the men who were the sons of Belial went out, and one who hides his eyes from charity, it says, watch yourself lest there be a thing of Belial in your heart. So there's two different verses. They're talking about two different people, but it uses the same word. So that's how we make the equation. Furthermore, he is called a wicked person. As it is written, the merciful of the wicked are hard-hearted in Proverbs 12:10. Is he also called the sinner, as it is written, he calls about you to God, and the sin will be in you. So, and it says that about near the subject of charity in Deuteronomy, that the poor will call out to God, and then God will find the sin in you. The Holy One, blessed is He, and that, by the way, that's calling. That's particularly striking in that you didn't have to. It's not like you never gave charity. Even if you gave charity, what the verse is saying is that, but somebody asked you and you were hard-hearted, even though you had given, you just closed your hand. You didn't acknowledge him. He didn't anything. So then the sin's in you. So that's what he's getting at. The Holy One, blessed, He is close to the cries of the poor, as it is written, you hear the cries of the poor. That's similar to a verse in Job and Iyov, but no exact source is found. Therefore, one must be scrupulous about their suffering, for behold, a covenant has been made with them, as it is written, it shall be when he cries to me, I will hear, for I am gracious. That goes back to Exodus. So that's the Rambam. So he's denigrating somebody who would close his hands. Talmud, Bava Basra, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says, whoever turns his eyes away from one who appeals for charity is considered as if he were serving idols. It is written in one place, beware that there be not a base thought in your heart. And in another place, certain base fellows are gone out. Just as is in the second case, the sin is that of idolatry. So in the first case, the sin is equivalent to that of idolatry. I thought there was a comma it wants me to put in. Here it wants me to put another comma. And these verses, 13:19 and 13:14, are the same ones that Rambam. So there, the translation, this is confusing. I should have fixed this up. Here I put the original word, the Hebrew word Belial, to show you the comparison. Over here in the Talmud, because I was copying Sonsino, and which is the only translation available at the time. and they translate it right away as a base thought, which is really not a literal translation. Uh, but they were consistent. They said each verse has the same phrase in it or word in it, and that's how the equation happens. That's the Talmud passage in Bava Basra. In Ksubas, or Ktubot, 67b, Reb Chanina had a poor man to whom he regularly sent 4 zuz on the eve of every Sabbath. So he gave him a weekly stipend. One day he sent that sum through his wife, who came back and told him that the man was in no need of it. What, Rabbi Chanina asked her, did you see? She replied, I heard that he was asked, on what will you dine? On the, this should be silver, yeah, silver colored cloths or on the gold colored ones. Is in, so obviously he had, these are expensive tablecloths. So she overheard him asking, so the guy had some stuff. So it is the view of such cases, Rabbi Chanina remarked, that Rabbi Lezer said, come, let us be grateful to the rogues. For were it not for them, we would have been sitting every day. For it is said in Scripture, and he cry unto the Lord against thee, and it be a sin unto thee. Furthermore, Rabbi Chia bar Rabba of Difti taught, Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, Joshua the son of Korcha, said, anyone who shuts his eyes against or eye against charity is like one who worships idols. For here it is written, beware that there not be a base thought in thy heart, and thine eye will be evil against thy poor brother. And the other verse is, and there is written, certain base fellows are gone out, Deuteronomy 13:14, as there the crime is that of idolatry, so here also the crime is like that of adultery. So basically, this last little piece is a repetition of another place in the Talmud, quoting the same verses and showing you that the same word is used. But here, where it happens again, there was an interesting story to precede it. So I brought that down too, although Rambam doesn't discuss this here. An interesting thought when he said that we have to be thankful to the rogues because there are times when we don't respond to the poor, or we don't know, or we were too busy or something, and so the rogues excuse us because there are, after all, rogues out there. So that's why I thought maybe he was one of the rogues. So I have a certain defense, but but you see his soft-heartedness, that he just found out that the guy he'd been sending 4 zuz was no small amount, because well, actually, that's the poverty level, right? He was completely supporting the guy. We said 200 zuz a year. If you have that, you're not a pauper. So he was making him not a pauper. 4 zuz a week, 50 weeks, 200 zuz. So he was giving him his annual salary, and then he found out maybe he didn't really have to. But he didn't want to get angry about it. Okay, that's the Talmud. The Shulchan Aruch, 247.01. So this is going back. We already did his paragraph 2. This is going back to paragraph 1. He starts off, it is a positive commandment to give charity as much as possible, and it is many times that we are charged with this positive commandment. There is also prohibition from hiding one's eyes from it, as it said, do not harden your heart and do not close your hand from your impoverished brother, Deuteronomy 15:7. Whoever does hide his eyes from it is called a worthless person. That's another translation of Belial, that word we had, a base person. And it is as if he worshipped idols. Furthermore, one should be extremely punctilious, for it is possible to cause bloodshed, in that the pauper seeking assistance may die if one does not provide assistance immediately, such as happened in the incident with Nachum Ish Gamzu. Now, this is the Shulchan Aruch, and he's quoting this incident. It's a story in the Talmud. It's a famous story, so that he expects the reader to know it. And the story is that Nachum Ish Gamzu was, I think maybe I'll bring it down here. No, I'll tell you now. He was approached. He had just got into town or something from our trip. He had a donkey laden with goods. Somebody came over to us and said, can you give me something to eat? Hungry? Said, sure, I'll give you. Just let me unload my donkey here. And he started unloading the donkey, and the guy died. He really kicked himself for that one. He said, I'm responsible here because I should have listened to him. I should have got immediately to his assistance. So he says it could be a case like that. So always be careful. Okay, so the notes on this one is Rambam continues in this paragraph the theme of the preceding one. Those who demonstrate hard-heartedness must be suspect in their lineage. He may have separated these thoughts into a new paragraph to suggest that even if a hard-hearted person can prove his lineage, nevertheless, such a person cannot expect any different treatment from the divine than that accorded to an idol worshiper. So that's why he's bringing it down here that what he said was, you're going to be treated like an idol worshiper, even though you're not. Yeah. Okay. Um, because sometimes there's a numbering difference. So on that note, let's go over here. This is a copy of that's of Jeremiah. So we will text Proverbs. Chapter 12. Well, has more. We have is that, just a minute. Let me go back to my document here. Proverbs 12:10. Ah, look, no problem. Okay. Um, okay, so ah, okay, I'll just leave that down there. I have trouble moving my cursor around. Paragraph 4. Whoever gives charity with a scowl or with a downcast look to a needy person, even if he gives him 1,000 gold coins, loses his merit for the action. Instead, he should make his donation with a pleasant countenance and in joy, and commiserate with him on his ill fortune. For it is written, did I not weep with him that was hard pressed by misfortune? Was not my soul grieved for the needy? Job defending himself. Furthermore, he should offer him words of hope and consolation, as it is written, and the heart of the widow I caused to sing for joy. Another verse in Job. So it's not only what you give, it's how you give it. And this goes back very strongly to the whole idea that I introduced when we started, is that the whole thing of charity is to replace what the guy lost, and um, and to restore his dignity, his sense of well-being. He could, people get used to, even if he just lost a fortune, he's going to get used to that eventually. It'll be a tough battle, but it's a tough road to walk down, but it happens. But at every step on the journey, there's the what he has and how he feels about it, and you can stop feeling so sorry for yourself, or just get used to it. But you still, if somebody can lift your spirits, that's the main thing that you're missing. So on this Rambam, I don't have a Talmudic source. Shulchan Aruch says 249.03. One should give charity with a pleasant countenance and joy and good faith. He should commiserate with the pauper in his misery and speak words of comfort to him. If he gives with a scowl or evil countenance, he loses his merit. In other words, you lose your whole reward. Whatever you gain for yourself, you lost just by the way you gave it. Note saying paragraph 7 through 14 below, Am lists 8 levels of performance regarding the duty to give charity. Paragraph 14 cites the case of one who gives begrudgingly as the lowest of the 8 levels. However, such an act is still included within the confines of the commandment. Therefore, when M states here that one who gives with a scowl or a downcast countenance loses his merit for the action, he must mean that a great portion of the merit is lost, but not the whole of it. I just wanted to get that logic put in there. Although I wouldn't be surprised if somebody would challenge me on it, because Rambam was quite clear when he says you lose it. You lose it. But later we'll see they're going to have to reconcile that with something he says later on. So, okay, paragraph 5. Should a poor person approach you when you have no money? Placate him with words. It is forbidden to berate a poor person or to raise his voice in annoyance with him, for his heart is broken and downcast. And behold, it says, a broken and contrite heart, Lord, you do not despise. Psalms. And it says, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite. Isaiah. Woe is to him who embarrasses the needy. Woe is to him. Instead, be to him as a father, both in mercy and in words, for it is written, a father am I to the needy. Eve said that testimony on himself. So, very important, and even if it's not money, to try and make him feel good. Rabbi Isaac also said, he who gives a small coin to a poor man obtains 6 blessings, and he who addresses to him words of comfort obtains 11 blessings. He who gives a small coin to a poor man obtains 6 blessings, as is written, is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry and bring the poor to thy house, etc., when thou seest the naked, etc.? That's Isaiah. He who addresses to him words of comfort, obtains 11 blessings, as is written, if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in the darkness, and thine obscurity be as the noonday, and the Lord shall guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought, and they shall build from thee the old waste places, and it shall raise up the foundations of many generations. That's Isaiah 10. So I'm not sure if I have a note explaining how do you count up to 6 and the 11, but this is what the Talmud recites in support of that. And Shulchan Aruch says, should a poor person make a request from him when he has nothing to give, he should not rebuke him nor raise his voice, but he should placate him with words and demonstrate his good wishes that he would like to give him, but he has not the wherewithal. Why is that? What do they want with that? Oh, only one L. Okay. On this, the Ramah says, it is forbidden to turn away empty-handed a needy person seeking aid, even if he gives him only one small cookie. For it is said, do not turn aside the poor shamefully. So he's a little more, skeptical. You really don't have anything. You could give him a little cookie. You could give him, pat on the back, something. You could do something for the guy. So that's all he's emphasizing, is there's something you can do. On this, my notes are, the verses that Rambam cites in support of the prohibition to berate a person in need describe the behavior of the Almighty, not the behavior prescribed for men. On what basis, then, does Rambam assert such a prohibition? Because that they were talking about God. Perhaps he does not mean to define subsidiary elements of the commandment to give charity, but the more general commandment of you shall walk in his ways, listed by Rambam as the first commandment in his second section, the laws of behavior. That's the second section in his magnum opus that we've been studying. By this commandment, we are told that just as God is merciful, so we should be. Just as God is gracious, so we should be, etc. However, since this commandment is positive in force rather than negative, we might have expected Rambam to place this emphasis accordingly if this was his intent. So I was a little unsure of myself there. Delete a line. I'm getting underlines here because they want me to do it on the American spelling. I'll get back to that later. And the commandment here, comma. So these verses that Rambam was quoting is talking about God, a broken contrite heart you do not despise, to revive the spirit of the humble, a father might to the needy, So you see, that's what concerned me. Are you bringing in new things that I have to do for the charity? No, I think it's a new commandment or a different commandment that he's relating to, and this is a really a widespread commandment. You have a duty to behave like God, to be to emulate God. You're in the image of God, so that's where it comes from. And how can you pretend to be like God? You don't have His powers, but you do have His powers. You can be merciful. You can be kind, gracious. Those are powerful um, uh, powerful abilities, and you just have to learn how to use them. Okay, so my other note is the words of Shulchan Aruch quoted above closely mirror those of Rambam, while those of Ramah that follow Shulchan Aruch are related to Rambam's paragraph 7 in chapter 7. Here, Rambam is apparently referring to a case where the donor simply has nothing available to give. Because in other words, I quoted the Ramah there. Rambam said the same, only he said it in a different place. Accordingly, Rambam is addressing the circumstances of charity which embrace other commandments rather than the specific act which is governed by the commandment to give charity. I'm just trying to explain how this reconciles with earlier statements. I'm going to just bring that up here and go to the next paragraph. Paragraph 6. One who cajoles others to give charity and activates them is given greater reward than the one who gives. For it is written, the work of charity shall be peace. As to the collectors of charity and their like, as said, and they that bring many to charity shall be like the stars. So that's really high level. So if you're involved in charity, helping others, you're going to have peace in your life. And if you bring many to charity, like the charity collectors do, they make it a regular go around. So they are like the stars. They're stars of the world. So that's the Rambam. Gets this from Talmud and Bava Basra. It is written, they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. Verse in Daniel. This applies to a judge who gives a true verdict on true evidence. And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever, these are the collectors for charity. In a Braita it was taught that they are wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. This applies to a judge who gives a true verdict on true evidence, and to the collectors for charity. And they that turn many to righteousness, I think are as the stars forever and ever. This applies to the teachers of young children. So I think there's R. I think they should put in an R there. This makes sense. Okay. So this other Braita, they're including a new category of people, and that is those that teach young children, because make a big impression on young children. You devote it's not, you don't expect to be able to converse. You have to control them, discipline them. It's tough. It's a tough job, but you devote yourself to it, so you're like stars forever and ever. That's the children, young people. So one case was the collectors of charity. They're dealing with adults. They're meeting themselves. They have to go around and collect. It's not a nice thing to go after people. So they're like the stars forever. The Bryce says no. They're the same as the other guys. They're nice. They're nice. They shine in the brightness of the firmament. But the real stars are those that teach the young children. Okay. So that was the Gemara in Bava Basra. It continues. Rabbi Lezer said, he who causes others to do good is greater than the doer, as it says, and the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness quiet and confidence forever. So, sometimes I get a call, they're doing a campaign, and somebody will call me and say, Rabbi Schwartz or Shlomo Schwartz, or they don't know who I am. They don't know who I am. They're given a list, they're calling, they're volunteering, they know who they're speaking to, get all kinds of abuse on the phone, get hung up in the ears and so on. They're sitting there trying to do it. So they're stars. They're stars. They don't may not realize it. They may not feel that elevated and respected as they do the job, as is often the case. But their stars and their firmament shines in the stars in the heavens, or rather, their star is shining in the firmament. Yeah. And then you could say the same thing with people who volunteer to work in soup kitchens and so on, stuff like that. All those cases are really, it's not a, you often feel diminished by what you do. Sometimes you'll come home feeling good, but sometimes things will happen and oh, I'd never go back there. I was so embarrassed or whatever. Don't do that because you have no idea what level you've achieved for yourself. The Shulchan Aruch 249:05 says, if he's able to affect others to give them to give, then his reward is greater than the reward of the one who gives. So if you can get somebody else to do something right. Okay, my notes are going to be handled next time because we are out of time. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Can't move these things around.
Recording in progress.
No. We're out. And I'm having trouble moving this around.
Well, I see you're televising our Zoom address, so.
Oh yeah, that was
copy and paste or cut it. Yeah.
There it is.
Highlight it and cut it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 9:30, or just put it in by hand. Okay. There we go.
All right, folks. I think that'll wind us down for today.
Monday next.
We'll be back on Sunday, right, Rabbi?
Right.
All right. So, yeah, let's wind it down for today. That's been our Zoom Daily with Shlomo Schwartz. Robbie, Ronald, do any of you guys have a question for the Rabbi before we wind down?
No, but I sent the Rabbi an email with a link to a Samsung information on what his question was earlier.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you.
It may not be the same model of Samsung phone, but it's possibly
it should function
Samsung.
similar.
That's the main thing. It should be similar. So it'll give you an idea of what you're looking for. Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All
good
right,
night,
folks. So we're going to sign out for today. We will be back on Sunday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. So till then, Shabbat Shalom to everybody, and bye for now.